More corporate action from Chennai next. ET now has learned that one of the city's largest homegrown real estate developers, that's CasaGrand, could see an IPO in 2 or 3 months. The development comes on the back of SEBI's approval for a 1,220 crore rupee IPO launch by Kasa Grand Premier Builder. In an exclusive conversation with South Central, the company's managing director Arun Mn told me that the real estate major will ensure that mid-segment residential real estate, that's homes priced between 70 lakh to 1.5 crore rupees, would be Kasa Grand's big market differentiator. Here's a slice of that very special conversation.
Hopefully, in about 2 to 3 months, we should wrap up. The market has been good, so we're looking forward to a positive response now. And we should wrap it up in the next 2 or 3 months, and I think we should be there.
Okay, that's a nice timeline to look forward to, Arun, because it's been quite the journey. I remember us having this conversation first back in 2021.
Yes.
And it's been 5 years that have taken form and shape since then. Would you have perhaps liked to list earlier? Has there been?
No, I think it's a good time because we've got a diversified portfolio today. We are just not a residential player. We have a commercial arm, we have an industrial warehousing arm, we've got into hospitality. Our group is far more diversified, and the group has become bigger. And we have a geographical spread which includes Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, and now we're branching into the other cities also. And we have a project in Dubai. So that's made us far bigger. And I think this IPO is far more meaningful for us and possibly for the market too.
So would it be right to say that you perhaps wanted to wait for a bit, play your cards right, get your portfolio in place, and then take that plunge? Was that the thinking?
The simple thinking was we want to get to a size which looked far more meaningful and far more serious for the market. In which way we are a Chennai-based player. For some reasons, the whole Mumbai ecosystem sometimes misses us at the radar.
Right.
Now, if we gain the bigger size, then we will be possibly seen far more an important player in the market, and that's also a reason as to why we waited this out.
Right. You know, Arun, it's been a long way that you've actually made, made it through. Began primarily as a villa developer. That was, in fact, the heart and soul of your real estate portfolio. Today, you're building townships at scale. Where is the focus right now as far as Kasa Grand is concerned? Big townships, huge developments. Is that where you want to put your focus on even as you make this journey to the public markets?
So we've realized ultimately we need to make meaningful homes to home buyers. We realize that it's possible only if we create larger townships where the homes are upwards of about 1,000 to 1,500 units to up to even 5,000 to 7,000 units. Where we believe a community per se feels like a smaller village of yesteryears, where people have connected as a community, they really have a good social interaction per se. We've taken these homes just beyond handovers. We've started maintaining these communities for the long term. We manage the associations. We manage the events in the association. So we've realized that this is where there is more meaning. And a human being is a social element. He wants to connect with people.
Right.
And though there is so much of fancy about owning independent land and independent homes, it is far more complicated to possibly live in that space, considering security, comfort, socializing, community feeling, children's safety, elders being taken care. So this is what we really believe in. Hence we stopped doing the smaller developments. We started moving to these larger developments, and we want to pursue it to make it even bigger ones, like 100 acres kind of a community township, where we can maybe even make it integrated. We can want to do office space there. We want to possibly do theaters and retail spaces there. We want to possibly have all the amenities interwoven into the community, and we believe that's far more meaning and value.
Absolutely.
To the home buyers we are providing homes
right.
for.
So let's talk a little bit about the business. I don't know how much numbers you can divulge at this time and place, given that you have a listing, taking place just around the corner. But inventory in the pipeline, what is that like? Which categories are you mostly focusing on? And what are some key gross development values that you're looking at?
Yes, actually, by and large, we are a mid-segment premium developer. We have never aspired to possibly do the topmost, premium-most homes. So we are quite happy with that. Of course, once in a while, we do land up doing a little more premium end projects. But by and large, we're in the mid-segment of the market. And across the country, when we moved, and we've stuck to that, homes where India buys. India buys between 70 lakhs to about 1.5 crores. That's where predominantly the Indian home buying spaces, and we're building homes only there. And that's exactly where the average of 80% of offerings are. Beyond that, 20% might go even below the 70 lakhs, and some go above the 1.5 crores, all the way to 7-8 crores, and that's all.
Right. And the inventory that you're working with right now across projects, mainly in South India, I would give in to assume, what is that inventory number like at this point?
Inventory number would be upwards of close to about 50,000 odd crores, which is spread across all the various cities, across all the price ranges we're doing currently now.
Right. Arun, it's interesting that you're talking about, catering to that mid-segment Indian, right? 70 lakh to 1.5 crore rupees. I've been reading multiple real estate consultant reports that keep coming to us every quarter, and almost all of them talk about that missing middle, that the mid-end home has disappeared and there's a big premiumization push happening in the market. In fact, most of those reports say the prospect of finding a home below 1.4 or 1.5 is almost zero. What do you make of that? Do you still feel real estate is accessible in many ways to that mid-segment buyer, or do you feel developers have forgotten that market in many ways?
We don't know about that. We believe that a lot of the developers want to premiumize their homes because they want to move to the higher end spectrum, because they have lesser complication, lesser number of homes to handle, lesser number of projects to handle, because they're seeing value. We are very socially driven in that sense. We believe that a great home can be provided for people who are buying in this category. And if good developers don't focus on that space, then who's going to give that? I mean, today there's a great space for a Toyota, right? A Toyota is a great space in the market, and we want to be something like a Toyota, where there's serious value for money, there's very high quality for what you buy, and our heart is with this guy. With this guy, see, I'll tell you how I see it. I see a lot of, the younger talents who come from smaller towns. These boys have come from Trichy's and Madurais and Mysore's and so on and so forth. And they've done well. They've done well. They're IT employee, ITS employee, etc. In about 5 to 7 years, 8 years, 10 years of his career span, he's able to buy a home. And, he's got about a budget of 70, 80 lakhs. It's the first home he's buying.
Right.
And it's I feel it's extremely gratifying to provide homes for this kind of an audience. We connect to that, and we like to be in that space. Our heart is in that space, and we have segmented ourselves to be that.
Right.
We are not necessarily aspiring to connect to the premium most homes. We do land up. We can do that. Nobody stops us. We can do the premium homes. But this is where we are, and we like to be in this space.
Absolutely, rightly said. Now, what do you make of the markets right here in South India? If I look at, again, these reports that we keep reading quarter to quarter, Hyderabad, Bangalore and Chennai have largely held their own when it comes to the numbers, be it sales, be it launches, with small aberrations here and there. But when compared to the rest of the markets like an MMR or an NCR, the three South Indian giants have seen only growth, even if merely marginal. Do you continue to see big potential in the South Indian markets with regard to growth in sales, growth in the launch pipelines? What do you make of these metrics going forward? And if yes, what will that growth number be like?
See, South is a very fundamentally secure market. The market doesn't speculate too much, unlike any of these other markets in the West or upwards of North. North is extremely speculative. What happens is actually, when there's a speculative spike in, purchases and demands, that can never sustain. Here it's very centered. This market, the whole southern market, be it Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, is very centered on pure home buyer driven markets. In fact, the number of houses we build, about 70% occupied by them. The balance 20% is going for renting, whatsoever, etc. 10% is kind of a little vague, we really don't know. So when a sustained market with the good economic activities which is happening is what you see. Bangalore is IT driven. Hyderabad has IT and a lot of other things. Chennai is amazing because it's got IT, it's got automobile, it's got telecom, and the whole, there's a very fundamental drive happening for home buying. And people are buying very much within their affordability ranges. Actually, they don't really stretch beyond that, etc. And you still manage to get great homes. I believe the homes built in South are far better than what gets built in North or in the West. So I believe this market is there to stay, and I think it will do extremely well in the going forward too. It's a stable market. When serious real estate spikes have happened, these markets have not raised up too much. So when the tapering ever happens also, I don't see the market tapering beyond a point. I would think the market growth rate will hold up to the 10-12% kind of range in South for now, when economically there's a marginal lag. But even at that, I think it will be a double-digit growth. And that is good enough for us to sustain and keep growing.
Absolutely. And no doubt the conservative, growth has been the hallmark of South Indian real estate. But Arun, I think there's some concern that exists in the Chennai market specifically where you're based, over approvals and the kind of impact it could have both in terms of launches and also sentiment in many ways. The Ramsar issue for that matter, right? The 1 kilometer planning freeze around the water body has eaten up a large chunk of all the inventory that's ongoing and yet to be planned in South Chennai. How much of an impediment is that to the growth of the Chennai property market?
Of course, that's quite unfortunate. Actually, government has its reasons to possibly evaluate the merits of the subject, and we respect the government and ultimately the judicial bodies to provide the ultimate verdict on this, because it's kind of a sub judice and the matters being speculated and discussed. But what I see is that such impediments is not good for any market because there's no predictability. Predictability gives stability ultimately for anything. I'm saying even for, let us say, investments to happen and even for home buying to happen, you need predictability and stability. And in a way, these things are disrupted. For fair reasons, maybe. It's got to be evaluated on the merits. We respect that. But I'm saying that I think this subject will settle down because it's a very big chunk. The whole growth of Chennai market happened in this southeastern corridor, right? So if the southeastern corridor ever gets hurt in a serious way, I don't think it will go well with the whole ecosystem.
And with that, it's a wrap on the bulletin today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and updates from South India. But for the moment, it's goodbye from us.